Muslim Brotherhood plan was introduced as evidence in the Holy Land Foundation trial in Dallas, Texas in 2007-2008, the largest terrorism financing trial in America's history, where our government handed down 108 guilty verdicts to Muslim American and Muslim American organizations, raising money in the United States, over $12 million raised and sent overseas to support Islamic terrorism and terror activity. The Islamic Society of North America became advisors to President Obama about Middle East policy. Their plan is working perfectly. They're following it to the letter. Part of their plan is how to work with the left in order to impact policy, not just in the United States, but worldwide. So in this last election, while most people focused on, oh my goodness, Mamdani, became the first Muslim mayor of New York City, 6 Muslim mayors won the election that day. Europe is at stage 4 cancer. Europeans did not heed the warnings. And the perfect example is in Lebanon. Once the Islamists won and they became the majority, they killed the lefties just as much as they killed the rest of us, because they looked at them, oh, you're Christian idiots, we're done with you now. We have no use for you. You already served your purpose.
Can you explain, as it stands now at the beginning of 2026, what is the Muslim Brotherhood plan for America? All right, I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report, and joining me today is a New York Times best-selling author, the founder of Act for America, and most importantly, the only person to ever bring Dave Rubin to tears on camera, my old friend Brigitte Gabriel. Brigitte, how are you?
So delighted to see your face again, Dave. So glad to be with you. And please don't ever play that clip again. Oh my gosh. You looked great, but I was on my way driving to San Diego. Looked like a mess,
Stop it. You're stunning and you know it. For those that did not see that clip, we will not put the B-roll in, so you have to click over if you want to watch it. But you gave, Brigitte, really, at the end of our first interview, it was the first time we had ever met. We were in my home studio. This is probably around 2017. The end of the show, you gave just such an unbelievably wonderful explanation of why we should care about America, why we should care about Western values. Obviously, that was connected to your life story of growing up as a Christian in Lebanon, and you've journeyed across the world. Now you live in Virginia, which seems to maybe be going the wrong way. But you, to me, when people ask me about you, which they often ask because we've done this many times, I always say it's like you are exactly the best of America. That's not a question, but that's how I'm starting this interview. Go. What do you want to talk about?
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you. It's people like you and me. I'm a firm believer, to whom is given, much is required. To whom much is given, much is required. We are so fortunate to be in this country. We are so blessed to be successful, to have the ability to be everything we can be. The sky is the limit in America. And as an immigrant to this great country, I understand the gift that America is to the rest of the world. The gift that America is to every single individual. When you come to this country, whether you arrive here naked, you have your brain, you have your ability, you have your fire, the passion within your heart, the fire in your belly to be anything you want to be, as long as you have the determination and as long as you are a law-abiding citizen. You can be anything you want to be in this country. You can go from a beggar to a multimillionaire. We have stories after story after story of people doing that exactly. This is the greatness of America. This is why everybody from all over the world want to come to America. Even those who hate America want to come here because they know what an incredible life we have. And that's why we fight so hard. That's why we dedicate our efforts to exposing the truth. Like what you do with your podcast, with my organization, founding my organization, because I wanted to make a difference, because America is worth fighting for. And you know what? After we make the money, after we have the children, after we have the family, after we drive a dependable car, we have a swimming pool in the backyard, what else do we want? We want to make a difference in this world, inspire the next generation, and preserve that which our great grandfathers in this country created for us. And I'm speaking figuratively because obviously I'm a new immigrant to America, but our founding fathers gave everything and laid their life on the line and lost everything. Most of them died broke to give us the America that we have today. The least we can do is preserve it for the next generation.
And you can see how Brigitte knows how to open a show and close a show right there, because that could have been the closer right there. So, one of the things that I love about you is that your story, your personal story of growing up in Lebanon during the Civil War as a Christian, it mirrors much of what both of our friends Gad said. He grew up as a Jew in Lebanon. There's no Jews left in Lebanon. There's barely any Christians left. But you were Christian, he a Jew, growing up at a similar time during the war, both having to flee. He ended up in Canada. You were temporarily in Israel and then eventually came to America. But then to fight for the values that your country, Lebanon, sort of had, or at least was veering towards. And then, the Islamists came in and took everything out. So I think the thing that put you on the map, at least for me, was about a decade ago. I'm sure you know what year it was. You gave a speech outlining the Muslim Brotherhood's plan for America. And we can show some B-roll of it, but you hold the document up and you're waving it at people saying, this is the plan to destroy America. And for, I think, a few years, people probably thought, oh, she's nuts, or she's making this up, or it's not real, or some version of that. However, it has become very clear in the last year or two that not only is the Muslim Brotherhood very real, they are in many, many countries. They are sowing a lot of seeds of dissension and terror. So I guess first, when did that get on your radar, and what year was that speech?
It got on my radar in 2007. I detailed the Muslim Brotherhood plan in my New York Times bestseller that came out in 2008, titled "They Must Be Stopped." So since 2008, I've been talking about this. Since 2008, 15 years ago, we're talking. I have flown all over the country, spoke at so many venues all across the country, from groups as small as 8 people to groups as big as 10, 14,000 people in some of these big mega churches. And I would talk about it, and people would shake their head, well, I don't know. And that's why I started taking it with me and showing it to people. Because, we have become a society where, I need to see it. Okay, here is the evidence. Now you can see it. And that Muslim Brotherhood plan was introduced as evidence in the Holy Land Foundation trial in Dallas, Texas in 2007, 2008, the largest terrorism financing trial in America's history, where our government handed down 108 guilty verdict to Muslim American and Muslim American organizations, raising money in the United States, over $12 million raised and sent overseas to support Islamic terrorism and terror activity. And in the last page of that plan, they list 29 front Islamic organizations set up in the United States for the destruction of America at our miserable hands, as they say it. And Obama came to power. And when I talk about these things, and I talk about how ISNA, the number one organization in the Muslim Brotherhood Project, in the list at the last page of their plan, ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America, became advisors to President Obama about Middle East policy. NATE, the North Islamic American Trust, owns 90% of the deed to American mosques in the United States. Number 2 on the list is the Muslim Student Association, which has more chapters on American college campuses than the Democrats and the Republicans combined. Number 22 on the list is IAP, Islamic Association for Palestine, which later became CAIR, Council on American-Islamic Relations. And the only reason they changed their name is because they wanted a name that sounded so peaceful, so unsuspecting to the gullible American public, so they can put themselves forward as not a Hamas front organization or a terror front organization, but as, this peaceful, wonderful Council on American-Islamic Relations. So that's when I started talking about these issues, and look at where we are today.
So, okay, so you raised the alarm on this stuff for years. unfortunately, there was the Holy Land Foundation trial, obviously, and that worked out, and we cut some of the funding. But largely, the Muslim Brotherhood has completely, in some sense, I don't want to say taken over countries, but they're all over the world. They're in various countries with various chapters. Just a few months ago, the Trump administration placed a few of the chapters, or listed a few of the chapters as terrorist organizations, but not all of them. What do you make of what's going on there?
Well, look, I wish he did go out. We all do. Designate them now. We are empowered. You need to just do a sweeping designation. Now, I believe and trust in President Trump's brain, his intelligence, his deal making. And I believe the reason why he did not do sweeping blanket designation of the Muslim Brotherhood is because he still has to work with members of the Muslim Brotherhood in the Middle East who operate within countries. I mean, look at Qatar, look at Syria, look at the other places in the Middle East. So he needs to operate and work with these countries. Turkey, for example. I mean, look,
Right. So,
Qatar and Turkey right now are on the board of peace for the Palestinian territory, for Gaza. So we can see that the president is having to walk on a very thin rope, on a very tight rope, dealing with these countries. So I believe maybe that was the reason why he did not do a sweeping designation. And that's exactly why we are now working with the states on the state level. And that's exactly why we worked with Texas. We designated them in Texas. In Florida, we love your governor, Ron DeSantis. We did it in Texas. And now we just did it in Arizona. We're working in Arizona. We just introduced it. So we're going now state by state, trying to do this for the next 4 years in order to show President Trump there's a lot of support across the United States for their designation. And I am hoping that by the time President Trump finishes his administration in 3 years, he will be able to have a sweeping designation before he leaves office.
Gold has officially gone mainstream. You're seeing it everywhere, and prices just keep climbing. Every day, more and more Americans are discovering the power of gold. But how do you actually take advantage of it? How do you invest in a way that's safe, simple, and built for the long run? That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Their specialists are trained to help advisors like you go from confused to confident, from wondering what's next to knowing exactly what to do. Whether you're looking to roll over an old 401k into a gold IRA, or you want physical coins and bars delivered right to your home, Noble Gold makes the process simple, secure, and stress-free. You'll get step-by-step guidance, transparent pricing, and U.S.-based service from a trusted team that's handled over $2.5 billion in precious metal transactions. With Noble Gold Investments, protecting and growing your wealth isn't just their job, it's their commitment. Visit DaveRubinGold.com today to claim your free wealth protection kit. That's DaveRubinGold.com. Noble Gold, helping you build a stronger future. Right. So in some sense, he's just kind of working with the devil that he has to at the
That's
moment,
right.
but hopefully he comes around. Okay. So can you explain, as it stands now at the beginning of 2026, what is the Muslim Brotherhood plan for America? I mean, we're a couple of years out of the BLM stuff, and then it morphed into the Hamas rallies. Now it seems to be morphing into this anti-ICE stuff. But, there are always Palestinian flags at these things. It's the Ilhan Omar and who's the one in Brooklyn, the awful one, who I'm talking
AOC.
about. Well, no, there's AOC, but the Sarsour, the usual
Yeah.
just
Oh,
clown car of characters.
yes.
Yeah. So what is their plan at the moment? How connected are they to the general upheaval that we see?
Oh, their plan is working perfectly. They're following it to the letter. Part of their plan is how to work with the left in order to impact policy. In their plan, they detail about how they need to form groups that infiltrates the Republican Party as well as the Democratic Party, not just in the United States, but worldwide. But I'm going to focus on the United States. They instruct their followers to infiltrate both Republican Party and Democrat Party and rise within the ranks of the party so they can get in leadership positions to influence policy. We see them already doing that, both on the right and on the left. They have been doing that. But right now, we are seeing it specifically on the left because we are seeing, and this is exactly what the Muslim Brotherhood instructs, how to work with like-minded progressive organization on implementing change and advancing their cause. We're seeing this play out We've seen it play out from 2010 until 2025, when basically the ACLU became the legal arm of CARE, when the Southern Poverty Law Center worked directly with CARE and worked directly with leftist organization, putting organizations like me on the hate list per the coordination with CARE, etc., etc. So we've seen this cooperation going. As a matter of fact, in my last book titled Rise, which came out in 2018, I have a whole chapter titled The Leftist Islamist Coalition, because they have literally built a coalition together, working together. And now in 2026, we have seen this coalition come into a mature stage where their candidates are elected to power. Mamdani, perfect example, elected and supported by an advanced push forward by leftist organizations, progressive groups who lifted him up, supported him, and voted for him and got their people to vote for him. So in this last election, while most people focused on, oh my goodness, Mamdani, became the first mayor, Muslim mayor of New York City, 6 mayors won the election that day. 6 Muslim mayors won the election that day. Mamdani was one of them. 42 Muslim elected candidates won out of 76 that ran in that election. 42 won. The majority of them are supported by leftist organizations and progressive organizations who voted for them, got their groups out for them, raised money for them, and got them into position to where they are. And they are working together. And that's exactly why we saw First Order of Mamdani remove the protection of Jews, minority groups like Jews in New York. I mean, they lied through their teeth to get elected, and now we see the results.
So in some sense, it seems obvious to me you can confuse the kind of generic queer for Palestine, purple-haired dingbat at Columbia. But it's you have to kind of give the devil his due here. It's sort of impressive that they can take all of these completely crazy leftist positions and then also sell it to the average Muslim who obviously isn't progressive. I mean, Islam is the least progressive religion. So they've done 2 things quite cleverly. But what they've done to the average Muslim seems more clever to me in a sense.
Yes, but it didn't take that hard because they played the victim card. And the victim card trumps everything else. Misery loves company. We all heard that growing up through all our life. Misery loves company. So people love to get together and commiserate. And it's such a strong emotional bond that pulls people together. The emotional bond trumps anything else. You can have an intellectual conversation with somebody and you can agree with them intellectually on this, that, or the other, or can disagree intellectually. But if you come together because you share a feeling, a very strong emotion, you will get together. Let me put it in normal terms, okay? Let me put it out of the box. When 2 people are attracted to each other sexually, when there is this sexual chemistry between 2, they may hate each other. They may be a prisoner and the prison guard. They are in totally opposite sides. But when you have a sexual drive so strong, which they both share, they'll end up making love because that's what brought them together. And it was stronger than any difference they have. Why? Because it was a feeling, an emotional drive. So the victimhood is the strong emotional drive that will equate to sexual attraction between the left and the Islamists. So when they can sit together and say, you've been a victim, we've been a victim. Oh, you lost loved ones who died in Gaza, or how you've been persecuted because you're a Muslim. We've been persecuted. They killed our people too. Oh, and by the way, they hate us both because we are people of color, even though, people from the Middle East come, they're not black. Actually, I'm the darkest color that comes from the Middle East. So
Yeah.
it's not the color issue, but it's the emotional issue, and that's how they played it, and that's how they are getting them.
The imagery you just put in my head between the Queers for Palestine and what I've got going through Ilhan and Linda and everything else is rather disgusting. So let's just move on for a moment. What do you think it looks like the day after they've accomplished what they want to accomplish, meaning they have this crazy red-green alliance that everyone understands doesn't make sense. Queers for Palestine is very different than Palestine for queers. They're not for any of these progressive ideals or feminism or anything else. But let's say the Muslim Brotherhood plan comes to fruition, whether it's New York City, it fully comes to fruition, or nationwide or whatever. What do you think happens the next day to their green colleagues?
Well,
or their red colleagues, I should say?
It is coming to fruition because we are 35 years into the plan and it's working perfectly exactly the way the Muslim Brotherhood intended it to work. So they are on track and even actually moving beyond their timelines because of the cooperation or the gullibility of the West. They didn't even expect the clever West to be so gullible and to fall into their plan and follow their plan. So that is working already. The end result is transforming America. In their mind, they want the whole world to adhere to Islamic ideology. And the perfect example is in Lebanon, where I grew up, where I was born and grew up until the age of 20, the radical left in Lebanon, because remember, Lebanon is a republic exactly like the United States of America. That's what most people don't realize. When you think of the Middle East, you've got the Islamic countries either ruled by a dictator or a one-man regime or a one royal family. You understand? They're tribes with flags. That's what I call them in my book. But they are a dictatorship. People think Israel is the only democratic country in the Middle East. Lebanon is a republic, exactly like the United States. So what the left
was, right? Not is, was. Yeah.
Well, actually, it still is in a way because we still have to have a Maronite Christian. The Secretary of State has to be a Sunni Muslim. We divided the power so everybody can be equal and everybody can be, we're tolerant and we're equal and we're diverse and all of that. Nonsense that when it's put in the wrong hands, it can destroy a society. So the radical progressive left in Lebanon, when the Islamists started saying, oh, we're going to transform the country, we hate you all, they would say, no, they don't mean it. We need to stand with them. We're a tolerant society. We shouldn't forget that. And they actually fought for their rights to have the rights that they have. And once the Islamists won and they became the majority, they killed the lefties just as much as they killed the rest of us because they looked at them, oh, you're Christian idiots, we're done with you now. We have no use for you. You already served your purpose. So they massacred the lefty Christians as much as they massacred the conservative Christians in Lebanon. In America, the same thing is going to happen. It's like Iran. When the Khomeini came to power in 1979, the first thing he did is kill all the progressives, is kill all the leftists, is kill all the people who said, we want to make sure we have equality in the country. That's what Carter thought, by getting rid of the Shah and bringing Khomeini, they're going to have equality. Khomeini killed everybody. In America, once the Islamists have their way, they will have no use for the queers for Palestine, the LGBTQ plus, whatever. They have no tolerance for these people because they despise these people. So they are going to turn against the human rights that we believe in, that we respect. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. I don't care what God you pray for. I don't care whether you're religious or atheist. I don't care if you believe in Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, whatever temple you go to, whatever mosque, as long as you are a law-abiding citizen in the United States, you love America as much as I do, as we do. We in America love all people, but they don't see it that way. And Iran is the perfect example of what happens when Islamists become the majority. Lebanon, Gaza, Syria, Egypt. Remember when in Egypt, the winter spring, the Arab Spring, when the Muslim Brotherhood took over. Every place when the Islamists, the radical who adhere to the religion of Islam and the tenets of Islam, take over, it spells disaster to any country or any community where they take over.
If fatigue, brain fog, constant sickness, or achy joints sound familiar, Strong Cell might be worth a look. Strong Cell supports mental clarity and focus, plus clean, natural energy without the jitters or that afternoon crash. The key ingredient is NADH, the energy source that powers every cell in the body. NADH levels decline with age, and with over 30 trillion cells to support, that matters. Strong Cell uses a proprietary delivery system designed to actually get nutrients into the cells where they're supposed to work. No corners cut on ingredients or manufacturing, which is crucial when so many supplements do little more than create expensive urine. When NADH is properly paired with CoQ10 and marine collagen, as Strong Cell does, it helps support mitochondria, the engines inside your cells. So if being tired of feeling tired sounds familiar, check out strongcell.com and use promo code Rubin to get 20% off. That's strongcell.com, promo code Rubin for 20% off today. Do your own research. The science backs it up. So I should note we're taping this on Tuesday. This is going to be our Friday show, and it sounds like it could happen at any moment right now. There could be a breakout of an American strike or some version of some sort of war happening in Iran if the Islamic regime of Iran fell, which has murdered now, it sounds like, around 36,000 of their own people in a month. I mean, it's absolutely insane, of their own people. If they fell, is that the blow to radical Islam that maybe could do some irreparable damage to the Muslim Brotherhood plans because their proxies would all be kind of crumbling, which in some sense they are already?
That will be a huge blow to the radical Islamists in the Middle East, not the Muslim Brotherhood plan. Let's put that aside. When the Iran regime falls, and it will fall, it's not a matter of weeks, it's a matter of days now. So when they fall and the Iranian people rise up, remember, they are burning their own mosques. They burned over, I think, almost 350 mosques. So they are rebelling against Islam itself, not just the regime. When that falls, the fall of the regime of Iran will reverberate throughout the world. In the Middle East, I believe the Iranians will sign a peace treaty with Israel. The people of Iran will sign a peace treaty with Israel. Hezbollah will be suffocated. The money tunnel that was funneling money to the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah. Remember, Hezbollah committed terrorist attacks on 4 continents across the globe, not just Lebanon. They were supporting Islamic Jihad. They were supporting Hamas. All that money flow is gonna stop and die, and also it will destroy them psychologically. 50% of winning the battle is psychological. That will destroy them psychologically, and then I believe Lebanon will come to the peace accord, will join the peace accord. Syria will join the peace accord, the Abraham Accord. It will transform the Middle East, but not just the Middle East. It will enable us to take our military power and divert and start focusing on protecting Taiwan, other interests in other parts of the world. Because remember, the only reason we have a base in Qatar is basically because of Iran. That's why we have a base in Qatar. Imagine the resources that will be freed after that. That is very different than the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is a Sunni movement. Iranians are Shia movement. There's not many Iranians in the world. The Sunnis, Indonesia, the biggest country in the world, is a Sunni country. 280 million Muslims all adhere to Sunni Islam. So the Muslim Brotherhood and their plan, the Muslim Brotherhood will always have sympathizers all over the globe. And that's why we need to start going after them globally, designating them as a terrorist organization, like what some Arabic countries did, like Saudi Arabia, like big countries that designated them as a terrorist organization because they don't want them there. They don't want to have anything to do with them. They are banned in those countries.
So you kind of alluded to this earlier, but what do you make of what's going on with Qatar? Because we know they are pumping literally billions of dollars into our colleges here, and then our colleges become bastions of leftism and completely the same stuff that you're arguing the Muslim Brotherhood wants to happen. So Qatar has a piece of that. The country itself is basically a slave state. I mean, they have more, in essence, foreign slaves that are trapped there building all of their infrastructure while it's just an oil-rich, as everyone says, it's kind of just a gas station in the middle of the Middle East. Yet they seem to have huge influence, and people talk about them way more now than maybe 3 years ago. What's going on there?
Qatar is the new shiny ball. They have no more influence and they have not pumped any more money than Saudi Arabia over the years. I detail in my book in 2006, Because They Hate, my first book, all the money that have poured into American colleges, from Harvard to Georgetown to Columbia to Cornell to Duke. I go down the list of all the money that was funneled from Saudi Arabia, setting up Middle East Study Department and political science departments, and appointing Arab professors who are anti-Israel, anti-America, to teach that Israel is evil, America is the great Satan, and they have done this to the tune of millions. Al-Haramain Foundation out of Saudi Arabia have sent more students paid for by the Saudis from the Middle East into America and all our universities through the 90s, 2000s, the 2010 and beyond. Qatar today is only the new shiny ball du jour that the Jewish community is starting to shine the light on, and that's only after the Hamas war. You didn't hear anything about Qatar before October 7th, 2024. So now this is the new shiny ball. Qatar is funneling money into America like Saudi Arabia has been funneling money into America, like Kuwait, like any of these other nations that have money, most notably Saudi Arabia. So yes, they are educating about, they are very pro-Islamist, they are very pro-Palestinian, and they are brainwashing the students. But this is nothing new. This has been happening for years, and we need to open our eyes and realize that yes, we can do business deals with the Middle East, any country in the Middle East, but you can never turn your back on any country in the Middle East with the exception of the State of Israel. If we go into war and we have to rely on people to turn our back to in the trenches, Israel is the only country we can trust, because Israel is the only nation where we share the same values, the Judeo-Christian values, the same ethics, which were the foundation of Western civilization. Now, people may not agree with Israel, may not like Israel. Fine, that's perfect. We're just talking about America's interest. If I'm in a trench and I have to depend on one entity, one ally to defend me, I'm not turning my back on any of the Muslim countries, but I can turn my back to Israel.
So I sense that overall, despite all the craziness and the amount of influence that the Muslim Brotherhood has created, that you're bullish on the future of America and you trust Trump. I'm curious, what do you think about Western Europe? Let's do it two ways: Western Europe and Canada, because I think Canada has a very specific version of this too. But to me, Western Europe, I see no way they get out of their problem with radical Islam at this point, demographically and ideologically.
I agree with you, and I want to add one more thing. We have Trump now in office. I fear for America as much as I fear for Europe. Don't feel safe in America just because we have Trump. And this is if we win the midterm election. And we're not guaranteed we're going to win the midterm election. And if we lose the midterm election, it doesn't matter what Trump does. Trump is going to be paralyzed. Nothing is going to get done. Yeah. So, one, we need to make sure we win the midterm election. And two, when Trump is gone, America's walking down the same path as Europe. Unless we elect another Republican strong administration that will follow in Trump's footsteps. We need at least 8 years to turn the ship around. The Democrats had Obama for 8 years and then Biden for another 4. That's a long time to do a lot of damage for the country. We had the reprieve in Trump in 2016, but we have to make sure we have long enough Republican leadership in America. Now, to turn the ship. Having said that, Europe is at stage 4 cancer. Europeans did not heed the warnings of people who were warning about this, like Mariana Alachi back in 2002. Bless her heart. They vilified her. She's dead now. She's no longer with us. She's an Italian writer. She was writing about it. She was talking about it, warning Italy, warning Europe. Nobody wanted to listen to her. Batya Or wrote the book Eurabia in 2005. Nobody wanted to listen to her either, because people sometimes do not want to acknowledge the death facing them in the face, especially when it's a death of their immediate family member. So those who lived in Europe, the sons and daughters of Europe, looked at their mother dying, but they could not acknowledge that their mother has been infected with a disease that's killing it, like cancer. They refused to do what is required because they lived in denial. Now, mom is dying, Europe, and they're looking at it, and now they are grasping for air, thinking, what can we do? What can we do? They're electing people who are anti-Islamist. They're trying to pass laws that will limit immigration. They do not know what to do, but the damage is in. The cancer is in, and it is growing. Canada is the same way. Canada, there's no free speech in Canada. By the way, most Americans assume that Canada has free speech laws like we do. We take it for granted that, of course, everybody else has free speech like we do. No, they don't. Neither Europe nor Canada. So they both have the same problems because they both rolled out the carpet for people who do not share their values. We in America had patriotism. Look, September 11th, after we were attacked on September 11th, what saved America was the patriotism. Europe doesn't have patriotism. Canada did not have the patriotism that we had. That is eroding right now. Right now, America is so divided. We are no longer the group that's going to stand Republican and Democrats on the steps of the Capitol like we did on September 11th, 2001, and sing God Bless America. That's not going to happen no matter what, because the Democrats hate the Republicans, conservatives, people like you and me who are middle of the road, who think, we need to preserve our country. They hate us. If we agree with one thing Trump does, you could be extreme lefty. In your case, you're gay, married, with children. The fact that you stand for, conservative policies, they completely discount you as the enemy. That's where we are as a country. And that's why we must come together. We must organize. I encourage people to go to actforamerica.org right now. Act for America. Click on Join Us. Start a chapter in your community. We have chapters all over the country. I'm proud to tell you that in the last 5 weeks alone, we have started 157 chapters in 36 states across the country. We have to fight tooth and nail leading up to the next midterm. Failure is not an option. In the next midterm, we need to save our country if we do not want to be going down the path of Europe.
So I want to jump back to, and we'll link to all the website and everything else below. But I want to jump back to New York City for a second because Mamdani does seem to represent so much of what you're warning against. I mean, what would your prediction be for the 4 years under this guy?
It's going to be very tough. He's going to try to change a lot of laws. We already know he already started. But the biggest concern is going to be the Islamization of New York City. It's going to be the Islamization because look at all the people surrounding him. The Linda Sarsours, that people didn't really think much of her. And then we started seeing her rise to power, working. Remember, she was the co-sponsor, co-leader of the Women's March on Washington, D.C. And so we started seeing her rise through the ranks. And now she is older, more funded, more connected, with influence that she can brag about on social media. I mean, immediately as he got elected, even before he was elected, she was bragging about all the money that she raised for him through Islamist groups that put him in office. And after he got elected, she started talking about now he is accountable to us, the people that put him there. So with his election comes strings attached that they're going to start pulling. My fear for New York is the Islamization of New York. We already see now the prayers of the 5 times a day prayer on loudspeakers that people cannot do a darn thing about. And how is he going to be able to handle the defunding the police, the monitoring of terrorists, sharing information and intelligence, or maybe impeding our work in protecting New York City because he's going to consider it's anti-Islamic to do certain things. So that's the danger.
So how would you connect all of this to Minnesota? Because I think that clearly one of the things that the progressives want is they want more destruction. Their feeling is the more that they can create the chaos, the more they can get Trump to overreact. They can then say, hey, America doesn't work. Look, we have chaos and we have this authoritarian guy trying to, take away our rights. Like for them, the chaos is the perfect storm. It's basically the genesis of everything. So how connected is all of this to what's going on in Minnesota right now?
Well, it's very connected. In Minnesota, they needed a distraction from the fraud. The over $9 billion stolen from your pocket, my pocket, and our children's pocket to go to fraud to a group of people that Obama imported and plopped in Minnesota that have become such a huge voting bloc. They now have a representative in Congress. Not just one representative of Congress, but the lefty elected officials right now are bowing at their feet, trying to protect them. So the left has become the enemy of the state in the United States. They are the enemy within, David. Make no mistake about it. It is time we face the ugly truth. The left is working with the Islamists. The Islamists use what's happening in Minnesota. They want chaos because chaos is the driver for change. In chaos, evil thrives. In chaos, they can get away with fraud. In chaos, they can get away with restructuring and organizing and recruiting more people who are against people like you and me who want to preserve America. And so this is why they love the chaos in America. And that's exactly why you see the leftist groups and the Islamist groups are coming together to stand. We do not want the deportation of people of color, which is the rallying cry that they're bringing them now together because they turned it into a racist card right now. They're playing the racist card. You want to deport people because they are people of color because you are racist bigots. That's how they are playing it, which has nothing to do with reality. Mm-hmm. The left would much rather protect murderers, rapists, and pedophiles instead of protecting your mother, your father, and your children. This is where we are in this country. So they are connected, they are working together, and their number one goal, for example, in Minnesota, they needed a reason to distract from the fraud. They found their reason, and they're going to continue this all the way up to the midterm election. They need something that will unify the Democratic Party to rally under an umbrella, to come together as one force against Republicans to make sure they stop Trump at all costs. They have fire in their belly. They have a desire for change, while our people are sitting on the sidelines praying that we're going to have change, hoping for change, praying that everything is going to work out, and saying to them, or getting themselves into thinking, well, I hope everything works out well. I'm going to go out and vote, and hope that every single conservative will come out and vote this next election.
Do you owe back taxes or haven't even filed in years? Now's the time to resolve your tax issues. With the national debate around abolishing the income tax system, the IRS is pushing back by becoming more aggressive than ever. They're sending more collection notices, filing more tax liens, and collecting billions more than in recent years. If you owe or you haven't filed, it's not a matter of if the IRS will act, it's when. Right now, Tax Network USA is offering a completely free IRS research and discovery call to show you exactly where you stand. Their programs and strategies can save you thousands or even eliminate your debt entirely if you qualify. Don't make the mistake of trying to handle the IRS on your own. Representing yourself or calling them directly can waive your rights and cost you significantly more. The IRS is not on your side, but Tax Network USA is. Get the protection you need and start resolving your tax matters once and for all. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Dave for your free discovery call. Don't let the IRS be the first to act. You know, I'm so completely with you on this idea that everything that happened in Minnesota is because of the fraud situation, because people forget for the week before this all broke out, it was all pointed at the Somali daycare centers. Tim Walz literally announced he's not running for re-election. And then all of this breaks out just by coincidence in the same city. I mean, it's like, come on.
No.
Do you think there's any chance for the Democrat Party at this point to push back? Is there anyone left there? We always joke about Fetterman here, like he's the last sane guy in the party. Is there any chance that the Democrat Party can stem any of this, or it's just gone already?
The Democrats care only about one thing, and that's power. Getting power or retaining power. They need to get rid of Trump because Trump is reversing every single thing they came up with. They want DEI. They want a wussified military. They want all the leftist policy that they rally for. And we do not want that. And so their number one goal is it doesn't matter how much we destroy America. This is how the left is thinking. It doesn't matter how much they destroy America as long as they win the midterm. And the Democrats know they have nothing to run on compared to Trump's accomplishment in the first year. I mean, look at the stock market. Look at the economy. Look at the wars that have stopped around the world. Look at America's strengths. Look at what we're building. What are the Democrats going to run on? The Democrats have to bond together to retain or maintain power. And if they don't do that, They're done. So they have to rally behind what's happening in Minnesota to save their own seats. Unfortunately, as sad of an answer as this is, that's the reality we are facing.
What have you found to be the best techniques to wake people up? Because I still think, to get us to the first question, when you were out there, and again, we'll show some of the B-roll, and you're waving this document, and people are going, all right, whatever. It's just something. It's happening. It's not, like, everyone's just distracted in their own lives. What have you found to be the best techniques to get people out of the slumber that they're in? Because that's what we need to win this thing. I mean, that's really the only chance.
The best way to get out of the slumber is to become active. And here's what I mean by that. They need to understand the difference between entertainment and activism. What we are doing right now is entertainment. I ask people all the time, Dave, are you engaged? Are you active? Oh, yes, Brigitte, I am active. I'm engaged. I attend CPAC every year. I'm a member of the local Republican club. We go have great speakers every month. Everybody eats the rubber chicken. They look so good. They network. And at the end of the meeting, everybody pats themselves on the back. Oh, my gosh, we had a great meeting. Who's the next speaker we're going to bring next month? That's their idea of engagement. They go to Turning Point USA, lights, turning balls, fireworks. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I got my picture taken with Don Jr. I got my picture taken with Janine Pirro. I got my picture taken with so-and-so. And they are on a high. They meet great friends. They go home 7 days later. They cannot remember a thing about the conference. They cannot even tell you what they can do to make a difference. But by golly, they had a great time. On the left doesn't have conferences. Name me one conference on the left. They don't have a CPAC. They don't have a Turning Point. They don't blow money on conferences, on entertainment. They take the money and they say, we're going to go into a community. We're going to have a community and neighborhood director. We're going to pay him or her $2,500 a month, enough to basically be accountable, spending money, fund money, but it's not enough as a full-time job. And their job is to organize their neighborhood, meet the neighbors, talk to the neighbors, get the neighbors active. You stop any 22-year-old nitwit on the street and tell them, why are you a socialist? They cannot even tell you what socialism is. But by golly, they are engaged. So you have to understand that watching Fox News, watching Newsmax, watching America's Voice, tuning into talk radio, watching podcasts, that's all wonderful and educational. But that's entertainment. Education by itself is not sufficient. Education must be coupled with action. So how do you turn the ship around? Go to actforamerica.org. I named the organization Act for America. Not think about America, not hope for America, not wish for America, not pray for America, but act for America. We can think and hope and pray all the time, and that's fine, and we all do. But without action, nothing happens. Join us. Click on Join Us. Start a chapter in your community. Volunteer. If you are unable to start a chapter or to volunteer, stand with us financially. Support us. We have our campaign, 26 for 2020-26. For $26 a month, stand with us as a Patriot partner. We will email you the Muslim Brotherhood Project for North America. We'll put it in your hand. You can read it in Arabic and in English. Share it with your friends. And that's how we make a difference taking back our country.
Does this lady know how to be a guest or what? Well, Brigitte, you did not bring a tear to my eye this time, but you opened like a champ, you closed like a champ, everything in the middle, all-star level. You're just the best. You're human caffeine with a smile. I love you. I really do.
See, we should do this more often. We have a great time together.
Anytime. Let's do it every couple months. You are always welcome back. We will link to Act to America below. And putting aside the Muslim Brotherhood for a second, I wish you luck in Virginia. It's going to be tough for you guys, but you are always allowed to come down here to Florida. Not everybody else. You and your husband, you guys are allowed down here.
Thank you. We'd love to see you.
All the grandkids.
We'd love to see you and David again. Okay, take care.
Take care. If you're craving more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics, check out our politics playlist right here. And if you don't want to miss any future videos, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.